Great.
Oh, no.
Welcome everybody. How's it going, Joseph? How's your day?
Good, good.
Great.
Things are
Everybody, welcome to
blowing up.
Own Your Agents. We meet up every week. We talk about why that's not just a flashy catchphrase, but a deep philosophical underpinning of everything we do and believe in here. Why is that? It's because in this age where we all know since 2016, when the innocence of technology had its roof blown off, when everyone realized Facebook and Google, everyone was spying on us. We realized that it's dangerous for these companies to own all of our information. The thing is, they make it so easy often, so convenient, and we sell our privacy for convenience. We always have, we probably always will, but we're also in the position now as creators and masters of our domains and everyone getting increasingly good at a lot of this stuff that we don't necessarily need to be. We have more choices. And there might be some places where it really doesn't matter. I talk about on Gemini every night about what's, at the dinner table about some stupid stuff. No big deal. I don't care if Google knows about like what movies I'm sleuthing with my family or things we're arguing about. Doesn't matter. But then when I'm talking in business, my day to day, that might be very different, or some personal things I don't want Gemini to capture. So with that said, that is one of the reasons why I think our title Own Your Agents is important. I don't know, Joseph, welcome on our Tuesday with that as a throw you in there. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, we're seeing that a lot with our customers. They want to own their agents, they want to own their data. And maybe Americans are used to selling their privacy for money, but Europeans actually don't. Like they have a pretty strong GDPR, and all that data is actually locked up much more over there. It's actually a lot less. They don't take that they take the opposite case, at least at the governmental level. Maybe the citizens don't know about it or care as much, but
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. They really they work to protect us, or they work to protect their, people over there in Europe a lot more,
yeah.
for better or worse, some would say. Some would definitely argue that
What
Europe
is
is
the worst part?
facing there was recently a paper actually about Europe 2040 in which there were some big minds being like, hey,
Mm,
we're not careful, we are outsourcing our dependence on the future to these companies, these countries that are developing energy sources, that are developing their own chips and their startups. And so there's this real discernment over when protection oversteps to control, and maybe it's arguable that actually the better place for protection is in the hands of the individual rather than dictated oversight. I don't know. That's probably what they would talk about in the Bay Area. You're out in the Bay Area. I don't know what they're saying out there about all the accelerated. What is it? What do they call it? EAC. The EAC movement of everything quick, as soon as possible, no holds barred. The free market of entrepreneurship and development. Anyways, and that was a little bit of a tangent, but to say like it is important to know where that lies, and we are at least in a position where we get to dictate it. We have more freedom, but we also have the ability, and we should have the knowledge to put more controls on our data and
mhm.
and our agents and what they're able to access and send out randomly.
Exactly. And the way to do that is to make sure you're using providers that are at least zero data retention, but even better if they're end-to-end encrypted. And that's the thing that Trusted Router really provides, a way for you to know end-to-end what's exactly happening and being shared
Yeah,
and not shared.
right. And we like talk about it every week of how like it's increasingly becoming important. Like again, like there's going to be certain stuff, maybe your marketing copy doesn't really matter, but your private company data, that's like your for example, your customers or internal IP, whatever it is, like that's where it becomes super critical. And a lot of people out there, one of the problems, and one of the, my recent projects I'm working on developing for a consulting client is a protection of their own, like a repository of their own knowledge and data on their own boxes, and that way at least their company data is on there. But you still need to chat with a chat bot, right? And that's why a lot of these people connecting to Claude and here's my Google Workspace, here's my Gmail, all these subscriptions, they're just adding on willy-nilly. That's like a real danger to the companies that that are there. Like and people don't realize that every time they connect their Google Workspace to one of these providers, they don't know. So it's a really big deal. But even so, like there's a few touch points of protection, like you talked about encryption. There's me with an idea. I need something. Maybe I'm on just my regular chat. Maybe I'm on a private box, whatever, but it has to leave there and go access something. So it might be OpenAI, and there's no real necessarily encryption there. They know what I'm talking about, and they potentially are training. If I haven't toggled something on or off, they're changing this all the time. You forget if you even are private. Then there's something like Trusted Router, and there's a couple of pieces there. Instead of sending it to OpenAI, I can send it to Trusted Router. Trusted Router then has it. So maybe they don't know what it was, but they need to send that somewhere else. They need to send that then to the LLM. And then there's certain LLMs that are more respectful or encrypted than others, right? So talk about that for a sec.
Yeah, I mean, let's talk about some news as well. Kimi K3 just came out, right? A few days
Yeah,
ago.
yeah.
And that didn't quite come out, right? It actually is only available on the Kimi Moonshots web servers. The Moonshot
Oh,
servers are in China.
mm-hmm. Oh, possible problem.
And so they're, what are they doing with your prompts? You have no idea. There's no zero data retention guarantees. There's no intent. I mean, DeepSeek explicitly says they're training on all your data that you send over there. And so, why would they use that?
That low cost.
It's cheaper and it's quite smart. It also doesn't have any cybersecurity guardrails in some cases. So you're actually not, able to do a lot more. You can actually lock down and fix the interfaces, right?
Right.
You know,
And we both run into that. Like you as more in cybersecurity, and me just checking a code base. Claude Fable wasted a whole bunch of tokens only to tell me it couldn't do it and handed me off to 4.8. I'm like, you should at least refund me those tokens. But point being that I was only just checking my code base. It wasn't even like I was going externally, and
yeah,
it thought I was hacking it or something.
yep, exactly. And so it's everyone's really frustrated that hacker one had an issue that they were hacked and they had to use not HackerOne, Hugging Face they were hacked, and so they had to
Oh,
use
right.
Kimi. They had to use Kimi to fix it because they couldn't do it. But now Kimi now knows about their data. Actually,
Yeah.
sorry, they had a local old Kimi 2.7 model to do that. But they patched it with Kimi, and that was the only way to respond to it quickly. And Fable wouldn't do it.
Yeah, it's
So all these
fascinating.
American models, American companies are they kind of need to add Chinese models now in order to be secure. They have
Right.
to. Yeah.
So then there's another interesting thing to talk about there because that's 100% right. You're sending it, and we're at a point right now where it's really fascinating. Like I could see a near future where we are not allowed to send data to China. We're not allowed to use Chinese LLMs. It's getting to a point where there's
Your company says that you can't use
my company's not saying that.
you
My
can't
company doesn't
send
use
it to China, or you can't use a Chinese model because they're American
good
providers of a
distinction.
Chinese model. Yeah.
Good distinction. So, and that's what I was getting to is like, I can't, my company's cool with whatever right now because mainly because I'm the most responsible one there in terms of knowing what the hell Kimmy even is. So most of these folks, not to say my company's not on top of it, it's most people have no idea what the heck they're doing. So it's one thing to send your data to China. It's another thing to send it to a Chinese model. So if that Chinese model, like in time, apparently Kimmy K3 is going to make it open weight, open source, you could then technically then put it on a local machine and it's a Chinese model, but you're just using it locally, in which case it's not going anywhere. And that's pretty interesting. Uh, but then it's a matter of like updates. It's a matter of like how fast your machine is. Like, I don't know, like what would Hugging Face have needed? Where did they even like? Did they run it out of China? Did they have a local version
Well,
that they were?
they run their own machine. They are a provider themselves, so they were able
They had
to
like their own.
self-run it. But I mean, if the hack killed their own machines, what would they do? Like they
Well,
need an external source. Actually, I should go to Hugging Face and tell them, hey, we can provide you a backup Kimmy to debug your issues
yeah.
in case you get hacked.
That's what I love about your mind. You're always like you're thinking about these different use cases for trusted router. It's such a fascinating product because it touches so much potential. That's why I always love talking about it. Is like, not when we always talk about it, it's like, well, what
Well,
it's
it's right in the token stream, right? It's in the token
exactly
stream, and so therefore anyone in the world can use it because everyone's using tokens.
any tool. It's like, and why would they? Well, it can be faster, cheaper, smarter, unrestricted, and private. It's like,
Yeah.
I think I just named most of the things. It's like, and then like, well, what's the drawback? And it's like, well, there's no drawback. It's actually open source. You can go double check the code. Like, so
It
it's
is
like,
literally almost, yeah.
so it's like, where's the catch? And so it's really funny.
Yeah,
And
it's just new. You haven't used it yet.
it's just new, and people don't know what a router even is. I was listening to a podcast the other
Right.
day of pretty smart people, and they were saying like, "Wow, I don't need a router. Like, it's another thing to send it through." And like, first of all, I'll just say on a functional level, having a router was what solved a huge aspect of my automation work, because if
Yep.
one thing was down, it went to another. That was just straight out the bat.
Yep. And that
But
will
enough,
always be true because NVIDIA specifically is restricting GPUs from a lot of providers. So therefore, there has to be hundreds of different providers, and none of them are reliable. They will never be because they're going to get overloaded. No one has enough GPUs, including Anthropic. Anthropic's
yeah.
spending billions on everyone, and they still don't have enough GPUs.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess even one additional thing I didn't even mention, you should actually really employ me for a trusted router, because I love it so much. Point being, or just the potential I see. I think it's just convenience, right? You have one API key, access to all the models. Like, that's huge, right? And so when I was doing these tools, I would have one API key, and then I'd be like, hey, for this simple, cheap thing, like maybe renaming a transcript title, use this super cheap model. And if DeepSeek doesn't work, then fall back to, like, whatever it was, ChatGPT Mini or Micro, whatever it was called at that time. But then I'll have the fancy ones. At the time, it was Opus and the latest ChatGPT. And so I'd be like, hey, for this assignment, use that one. But OpenAI or Claude was going off all the time, so OpenAI was my fallback. So it really helped. It made my things that would crash a couple of times a week because of some systems outage to once a month because of something often even unrelated. So having a router is smart in that way. So for reliability, but also some of this stuff that you talked about of censorship, for example, of like some models just can't give you what you need, or they're going to cut you off. But then there's even other things too, like this idea that you've talked about. Maybe you can briefly explain for people to understand this idea of like fusion, where you can potentially, by intelligently combining models, get an even more intelligent response than any of one of them individually, still
Yeah.
possibly cheaper. So tell us a little bit about how you
Yeah.
use the router for some of that stuff.
Well, I use it in reference to what you were just saying about American and Chinese models. So there's not many American models, and they're not very smart as compared to, say, Kimi. But by doing fusion, we can actually combine several models that are all American, open weight ones, into one. So we can combine Inkling, which is just released by Thinking Machines last week. That's a cool one to talk about. You can
Yeah.
combine NVIDIA's Nematron. We can combine GPT SS120B, which is from ChatGPT, and we can combine Gemma 4 from Google. And by combining all those four American models together, we can make something that's even smarter than any of them independently,
How does
right?
that work while still being cost effective?
Well, it's still very cost effective because it's still 10 times cheaper than Fable.
Fascinating. So is it literally asking the same question of multiple and then synthesizing the best response? Is that effectively what's happening underneath the hood, or is there something I don't understand?
It's a bit more complicated. There's different ways you can create the graph of interactions. You can use like an advisor model. These actually get complicated because they have different context windows, so it actually makes it non-trivial. But yeah, we have a Liberty 1.0 model and Liberty 2.0 model, which is even smarter. And they're comparable to Fable on deep research. But our Chinese open source models are even better.
Yeah.
So we have Prometheus 2.0, which is scoring off the charts on our latest research. But I can pull up the blog to show you that.
Yeah, and I also want to understand, like, why did Kimi K3, this recent release from Moonshot AI, the Chinese lab, like, why? I want you to talk about this first, and then I want to talk about why that was even such a big deal this week. But tell us.
Hmm. Yeah, it was a big deal. Yeah, so you combine these four in a recipe, and we generate this Liberty 2.0, which you can use on our site, all American. And then that is performing okay.
What do you mean it's
And
performing okay?
yeah, it doesn't perform it. So here's look at this is Fable. It gets a 65.
Hmm.
Liberty 2.0 gets like 66, right? So it's pretty much like GPT 5.5 Fable 5 solo range. So I mean we definitely improve it, but we got Prometheus 1, Zeus 1.0, and Prometheus 2.0 are much, much, much better on this Draco deep research
That's
benchmark,
fascinating.
or at
And
least
how much
vector
does that like
velocity.
compare price wise? You said is that 10 times as inexpensive, 10 times as cheap, or a tenth of
This
the
is
cost
this
of?
is this is tenth of the cost. I mean, Kimmy's actually kind of expensive, so this is like a third of the cost. Kimmy 3 is kind of expensive, so it's a third of the cost. Zeus is actually combining Opus and Claude as well, so this one is quite expensive. It's almost Fable level
Wow.
cost. Yeah, but it's
Okay.
still cheaper, still like half the cost.
So tell us about why, for those that don't understand, Kimmy K3 was a big deal this week or last week, whenever it came out.
Yeah, that's fun. So, what's the main thing? Kimmy K3 came out, and it is in the benchmarks, it is above Opus 4.8 on like almost all the benchmarks. That's pretty amazing because everybody said that it's 6 months, 12 months behind. But given that Fable 5 is kind of half released, like if you ask it a question about programming or biology, it like downgrades to Opus 4.8. So in practice, most of your responses are Opus of 4.8, which means that Kimmy is actually better than what you can get from Claude very often.
Because it's not as limited.
And no one's even really talking about ChatGPT. It's people kind of giving up on that. It's all about no one's talking about Sam Altman so much. It's more about Dario and Anthropic.
Yeah. I mean, what
And
I was
that
reading yesterday was like that if OpenAI and Anthropic were on the public stock market right now, and that announcement from Kimmy K3 had come out,
yeah.
it would have been a massive stock drop. And a lot of people are like, wait, what are they doing and spending their money on so much when these Chinese companies are able to produce such high quality, less expensive, for less cost?
For a third
Uh,
of the price. Yeah.
yeah.
Half the price of Opus, better than Opus. Half the price. The
And
third of the
part
price
of
of
that,
Fable.
yeah,
And it can do cybersecurity, right? It can do you can ask it bio questions, and you Fable, you can't do that. In many ways it's already out competing. And so the labs have to go and they have to spin a narrative. And the narrative that's worked so far with financiers and VCs that I talked to is, oh, they're distilling. They're actually not doing any innovation. They're just copying the homework. And that's gone over well so far. Although what happened is Kimmy K3 actually does better than Fable by a lot on front end development.
hmm.
Does better by a lot. A legal benchmark from
When
Harvey.
you're talking front end development, you're talking about just like code, like what is it? What do you mean by
Like, I'll
front end?
make a website. Like, make me a website for my sauna. Make a website for my gym.
So it's doing
And
front end really well, but not back end.
it does front end by far better than Fable on head to head
Hmm.
attacks, basically.
Amazing.
Uh, and then
You
on
said
back
it.
end, it's like on backs, do you know arena.ai?
Uh-huh. Where you can
Arena
like
is
test multiple AIs
it's like a
against each
it's like
other.
a battle, right? Head-to-head
Yeah.
battle. So like, and then you see which one you like more. So Kibi is better on that by far. And everyone's like, wow, this is amazing. It's better than 5.6. And they were so proud of saying that GPT 5.6 is really good at front-end design. And like Kimmy blows it out of the water. So I haven't tried making a website with it, but you should check it out.
Yeah.
Maybe
Yeah.
you find it
Honestly,
useful.
though, I mean, the reason I don't play with a lot of these models is because I'm still very much within my subscription limits of I've got $100 codex and $100 Claude, and I
Do
will
you have
use
any production workloads with AI? Do you have any production website that uses AI? Because you can't
um
use subscription on that.
you mean am I like putting them out publicly?
No, like on your website, Team Central or something, do you have an AI feature? Because you can't use your subscription on that. You must be using AI in your app.
Great point. Great point. You're right. I do use trusted router for my router on a few of the tools that I've built that are relatively low throughput. So I
But they
haven't.
don't make websites for front end, obviously. So
No, my tools are largely like they're looking at, like they're doing searching of transcripts. Like I have Team Central, for example, does have some AI chat features where you're talking with big chunks of data about your transcripts or about things like that. And you're right, that's when I do use tokens. And it's not such, I don't have such high costs yet that I've been prompted to try these other models, but that would be where it comes first. You're right. Like if I really start releasing that and promoting it and I'm spending $10,000 a month, I'd be a lot more inclined to put the work in. But I mean, by put the work in, all it means is, I guess, changing the model name in the system. So, but it's not a high cost right now. But you're right. For my regular stuff that I'm doing, of building websites, of managing agents, I am using my subscriptions. There will be a time that potentially doesn't work. For example, with OpenClaw, which I've been really psyched about. I've been working on, my new OpenClaw. I got your device, which I'm going to have my personal home agent set up on. It took a little bit of a back burner to my work project I was working on. But point being that, there might be a time, just like it happened with Claude, where they're like, you can't use our subscription anymore for OpenClaw. And then they dialed it back. They're like, you can use it a little bit, but after a few chats, it runs out. So effectively, that means they don't want you to use subscriptions for things like that. They want you to use tokens, in which case people are going to become a lot more aware of their token spend. They're going to become a lot more aware of things like Trusted Router, because they'd much rather pay for Kimi K3 or something like that. That's a tenth the cost of Fable. What's interesting about, just to mention too, on Fable, and that's when people are going to become more aware of this kind of stuff and routers and token usage, is when they actually, things stop being as subsidized, or their usage grows and their needs grow. And just like that's what Fable is an interesting like tangent. I'll wrap that up. Is like Fable, what happened was they gave you a week left with your subscription. Then they gave you another week. They gave you a third week, and I'm just cramming every weekend because I thought it was going to be my weekend. And I developed plans that I was going to then execute with Opus 4.8. I developed plans for 3 projects for the next few weeks that I was prepared to then have Fable stop and then just execute on the project. So I was putting all my work into plan making. And then funny enough, Claude was like, hey, well, listen, everybody, we're going to actually let you have a little bit, everyone's subscription. Oh, actually max, not pro plan, not the $20 plan, $100 plan, $200 plan gives you now some Fable included. However, it's still going to be limited. It's a very expensive model. And that said, I have realized the value of it. Because of the free amount of time they gave me with it, I realized, damn, like even if I did have to pay $50 in tokens for some of those plans, it'd be worth it. So, and maybe that's kind of what they did. They were like the drug dealers, like, hey, here's some free access. Well,
and they measured, like, did we get them addicted enough? No. Okay,
exactly. Give them another week. I think that's totally what happened. And then, because that's what happened with me, I would not pay some. Maybe I'm smart enough to be like, well, I'll use Trusted Router and Prometheus model for a tenth of the cost and all those other benefits. But that's going to also happen at a company level. People are going to be like, all right, look, the time of just buying everyone's subscriptions and spending tens of thousands of dollars on people just wasting tokens, I think, is coming to an end. The time companies looking at outcomes and being like, okay, we do have this workflow that does cost us $10,000 a month to maintain with our marketing team, but it produces provenly $100,000 worth of value. That's a good $10,000 spent, right? And so that's what companies are beginning to understand, is that, look, if it's transparent and you can measure the outcome, then my $10,000 or whatever is completely justified in token use. Not just like, hey, $10,000 worth of subscriptions for everyone just doing random crap, that has no governance and oversight, but actual clarity, outcomes-based pricing, or like at least budgeting. And that's where things like Open Router and token usage, Trusted Router, any of the routing platforms out there are going to become even more prevalent. Like, your competitor, Open Router, went from a little service that I used back in the day to now, what do they just get funded for $1 billion?
More than that. Over the week, it's more news. More than the news this weekend is that they're getting rumors of some companies trying to bid and acquire it for $10 billion.
That's so fascinating. Like, what is so unique about what they're doing that a company couldn't just be like, I don't know, like you're what I've seen in Trusted Router, you're putting a lot of time, you and your team's putting a lot of time into research of these different platforms and of these synthesized models. Like that's some super IP. That's where there's some amazing IP with Trusted Router. Is Open Router doing the same? Like why are they worth why were they worth $1 billion, and why now is there even consideration of $10 billion value for the company? Can you give some insight into that?
So NVIDIA has this, and the Cerebras CEO talked about this on a lot of places. NVIDIA specifically, and it's a good strategy, is commoditizing the complement. That means that they are making sure they don't become a monopsony, and they're only providing GPUs not only to AWS, which normally would just, they're the biggest, they would take all the GPUs. They are saying, no, you can't have all of them. We're going to give some to Google, we're going to give some to Amazon, to Microsoft, we're going to give some to, he's letting 1,000 flowers bloom. He's creating dozens, hundreds of providers. So everything from Parasail to Crusoe to a bunch of others, he's helping make them all have racks and racks of NVIDIA GPUs. So that means when you need a GPU, you can't just go to Amazon. You have to go to one of these other ones. And even then, they're going to get full too, because none of them are going to have monopoly. So he's creating more and more and more of these. And that's working. So he's completely destroying the clouds. Like they're going to be not, they're worth trillions, but they're not going to be worth that in 2 years, because
Wow.
it's all going to be distributed, because you're going to do all your compute needs through tokens. Tokens
Wow.
are going to be a majority of cloud spend by end of next year. No one talks about this, but it's going to be the majority. So by distributing the power from these 3 clouds to hundreds of providers, that creates, even more dependence on NVIDIA, right? Each of these small ones can't do it on their own, so they need to buy NVIDIA. But by doing that, they have created a huge opportunity for someone else to come in, because no one wants to deal with a dozen providers, right? It's a pain in the
Right.
butt. Individual developers don't want to deal with it, and big companies don't want to deal with it either. You think each of them is going to like internally deal with 50 different providers? Like no,
No.
they just want one trusted person.
Yeah.
So
And by the way, like we talked about before, there's so many other benefits that no single provider
yeah,
can provide, ironically.
exactly. Yeah, I mean you could if it was literally only Amazon, but then they would just charge you infinite dollars
I see.
and
Yeah.
and
Okay,
and
good point.
and and crush NVIDIA. They would just,
Yeah.
so so you go to so you go to a router, trusted router, and then now I can route to hundreds of providers, and you don't even think about it. I just, whatever you need. You want, only EU servers? Okay, got it.
Right.
Only American models? Got it. Only fast models? Like, okay, you can do cheap or fast. Like, tell me what you want. And I can do exactly what you need. You don't have to think about it. And if you change your mind the next day, you change it. Boom, we got a provider for you.
So what's
You
the
don't have to go.
moat then for like Open Router or Trusted
It's
Router?
the network. It's become, so it becomes a new cloud. So in
Mm.
the past, it was just the 3 hyperscalers, but now it's going to be 3 routers, and it'll probably be trusted router, open router, and port key basically, and will be the 3 routers that everyone goes to as the front door of the internet
So
for AI, the front
like
door of
so
AI.
so are you renting is Trusted Router renting processing space somewhere and actually doing the processing for these models? Like how does, so like from what I was understanding, like you're routing a query that goes out to the other to the like how is the technology working behind the scenes of like where the data is being processed, where the actual and like the actual chips are being used? um, Help me understand a little bit about like the how Open Router, Trusted Router works. I send a request with my one token or with my one
Yeah.
API to you
So
guys.
OpenAI invented the interface where you give it a prompt and then it spits out tokens in a stream. And that's such a good interface. Like the OpenAI SDK is such a good interface that they realized anyone else who made a model realized they should follow the same interface. So now there's this standardized format, which is the OpenAI SDK format, where you give it prompt and you get back tokens. And that's been extended. And now Trusted Router offers that same interface where you give it the prompt, and then we go, we intelligently figure out which provider has the best model for you, go to them and give them the same prompt format, and then they process it on their GPUs, and they bring it back, and then it's encrypted in our servers as well, and then we go and bring it back to you.
Great. And
And
so you're paying them, they're doing the processing, they send you back the response, and you then take a small little percentage on top of what the token
we
costs.
take 5% off the things you would pay directly anyway.
Okay. What does Open Router take?
5.5.
Oh, hey, another benefit of trusted router. That's awesome.
Yeah, we're cheaper, faster, smarter, more reliable,
All those other
more
things.
uptime, and more private. And
Yeah,
totally
but also
private.
it sounds like you're really putting some time in that research into like the Prometheus model or these other models, the Liberty model, which I just think is hilarious. It's like, go America. It's like you're all American, LLM, which I think is awesome. It's sort of a model for everyone. Like, wouldn't it be amazing for an AI company serves this kind of demographic to be like, we run all on American servers. It's like, made in America, like stamped on products, like America only LLM, your data never leaves this country. Like, you know what? Like, jokes aside, like that's huge. And so for, Trusted Router to be able to provide services like that,
I mean, would people really use a dumber LLM if it's just American?
people bought the Trump phone. They unpackaged it, realized it was a shittier phone, but it was gold and it said Trump on it. And I'm not like pinpointing anything, but people, when they believe in something, especially if they don't need the smartest thing, like there's gonna be a point soon, actually, approaching it pretty soon, where just like megapixels of a camera, there's a point where you don't need any more megapixels.
Yeah.
You don't. Maybe if you're a 5K, 10K, whatever, like professional videographer, things like that, photo shoots, okay. But the average person they stopped around, what was it, like 8 megabit or whatever it was called.
But that's not what the Anthropic people think. They think there's going to be exponential intelligence, like data center of geniuses.
Well, that's
like
different.
Infinite.
That's different. There's going to be, because also due to privacy and due to power and efficiency of both devices and efficiency of these models, there's going to be more edge computing where more things are going to be happening. Your freaking mouse is going to have an LLM on it, these devices. So there will be these more local LLMs, at which point that's going to be good for data. It's going to be good for cost, no doubt. And most people's little device thing on their phone is going to probably be good enough at a certain sub-fable level, at which point they're going to have that. And then there'll be, for these specific use cases of very complex problems of biotech, of cybersecurity, there will be the people that are always going to be paying the $50 output tokens per million, whatever, because they need the latest and greatest. So that'll be interesting to see what happens. There will be, I think, a scale of things that we need, and that's, again, like all the more reason to have something like Trusted Router, which no one freaking knows when to use which model or which level of thinking. Like, literally, you go into the sub menu of ChatGPT or Claude right now, most people will just close that right up. Be like, I just use Opus 4.8. I don't beat my subscription. I don't even know what thinking means. This seems like an interesting problem. Should I turn thinking up or down for this? I don't know. Like, so most people don't know that. And that's another reason why this routing thing's interesting. This idea of being like, hey, I got this problem. Be like, well, especially if you're paying for tokens, or your team is paying for tokens. If you got 100,000 employees or whatever, like, guess what? The little summary of that transcript does not need Opus 4.8. That's fine with Sonnet or even sub level. Route it to the appropriate model invisibly, so the user who just needs to get their work done, does not know about AI models, just sends the request and gets back the thing, and the routing is intelligent enough to be like, it only needed this much, or that's a big problem, I need to upgrade to this thinking model. And having some transparency in that. And then what's interesting there too is like governance and transparency on the company level, is they can start to see which of their team is spending how much, which is needing the most thinking models, does that track, all that kind of stuff does get pretty interesting. So, I don't know how much of that with Trusted Router you're able to expose to a company that's using Trusted Router as their service. That's a whole nother level of like potential use case where you can really show insight into, it's interesting, insight into token usage and model spread. Yeah, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, we offer you the ability to say, oh, give me myself. You could set the limits instead of Anthropic telling you. You could set, no more than $200 a month, no more than $50 a week, no more than $10 a day. And that way, when you hit the limit of the day, you can say, oh, maybe I should take a break now, or like slow it down for next time. Or maybe, you just have an alert and then you decide to keep going anyway, right? And then it resets every day.
Yeah.
And I think that could be an okay model for a lot of people. And then obviously we have visibility for enterprise. Like, here's all your teammates, here's what they are using, here's who's using more, who's using less. Maybe you want a leaderboard, maybe not. But that's basic enterprise requirements.
Yeah. Well, listen, this has been super cool so far. I think what we do is let's hop into some news. Let's hop into some, and
Yeah.
maybe we can start with what you've been doing with agents this week. This is the topic. We can each share a little bit what we've been doing with agents, and if there's any news, I got a couple of news items could pull up here regarding agents. So, do you want to kick it off?
Yeah, the big news relevant to me is the Open Router getting these $10 billion offers, and pretty excited about everyone now realizing the value of routers, and even though it kind of missing the boat before, but now they kind of see that it's actually pretty strategic.
Yeah, yeah, super funny. I guess my big use case this week, or my big focus has been really working on, I'm having some really fascinating discussions on the topic of agents. I've been working on both an agentic platform for my company. I'll be able to share more at some point, but effectively it's a shared brain. All the team will have access to kind of various types of agents and solving what I hope to be, well, what I think is one of the problems of governance and oversight of these agents. Right now, you have no idea what your marketing team's doing in Claude necessarily. But actually, if you could give them the tools and you could actually see how they're using things, there's a potential to, just level everyone up a little bit, because some people on the team are using things really intelligently and others aren't. So building tools that you can spread across your team more. I'm interested on agents for business in that way. And then for me, for OpenClaw is something I've really been working on. I've now got my OpenClaw really to where I want it. It's I'm building it to be able to access my various projects and to be able to work on things when I'm out and about, or even concurrently while I'm doing other stuff. For example, I have 30 websites that I need to check for one of my main consulting clients every day. I'm the systems guy. I used to, and the client was like, "Can we just get someone to do that?" And I'm like, "Hey, better than getting someone to do that for even if it's $20, $50 a week or whatever. Let's just have, I'll just do that and have my agent do it every morning." And so finding little tasks like that for my agent, my OpenClaw agent's called Nexus to handle. It's been really fun to think about, how can I streamline my day? And then, just how that's going to look, what it looks like when everybody has their own agent. That's top of mind for me of that's the realm I love to play in. What's it going to look like? And do we want, coming back to own your agents? I want to own my agent. That's why I have OpenClaw, who still accesses Claude, who still can work with OpenAI, but I kind of own the top layer. And I think that's important. For some people, that's not going to be important. Hey, just give all my stuff to Claude. It's easy. It's one click. I don't really care. So go for it. But for me, and there's other benefits too. I'm not going to lie. It's a lot to set this stuff up, but that is something that I do think is cool. So I wanted to bring this up with you on a different level. So I'm going to present my screen. I got my Team Central news pulled up here, but I've pulled up already my entire screen here.
You collected news about the AI stuff over the week?
Yeah, exactly. So I got some
Nice.
agent
Great.
news. So, all right, OpenAI wants.
This is in your custom app?
So basically my app looks like this, and I scroll through this is my app that sources all of these resources every day, and I get my own little newsletter, and this is a nice little app. Team Central is my app that I built for my team. So then I go through, when I'm on this call with you, I sometimes just come in here and for now I just search like this. It's okay, cool. What's been the news on agents? So I just pull some of these things up.
Well,
Talk about agents. But for this thing, let's take a look at this. Let's look at this. This is the new device from OpenAI that they're launching. They're doing two things right now. They're launching this, and they're launching some sort of. So this is this cool little device that apparently all the buttons can be popped off and you can replace. It's got a joystick and it's got a knob for thinking level. Isn't that kind of interesting? So you're you have a very interesting workflow, because you work, it sounds like, largely in Claude Code app, the app. This probably wouldn't even work in that. This would probably only work with the ChatGPT app. But all that to say, you could probably make one of these yourself. You're a hardware guy too. But
Yeah.
what do you think about this? Like, we're starting to think about different ways of interacting with AI. Would this be useful? Do you think this is interesting? This also comes with, by the way, like a whole bunch of other buttons that you can add on to it. Let me see if it's, what's it called? It's called a OpenAI. What's it called? OpenAI control pad. It's got a funny name. It's called a work louder, maybe, or Codex Micro. Yeah. And so all these buttons you can just click on there and it can do things for you, you know? So it's pretty fascinating. What do you think about this thing?
I think it's awesome. I love the idea of hardware. As you know, I'm started building my own hardware, and it's pretty fun. I look at this and I think, wow, so easy to make this. Like, it's pretty simple. Like, you
Yeah.
put the buttons together on a thing. Like, that base thing is, I'm sure you can get it in China for 50 cents. And I'm sure Johnny Ives hand designed each button though, so it's a bit unique, but you know, totally doable at scale. I'm surprised they're actually shipping this. Like, I think it's not going to sell very many, so
Yeah,
it's kind
it
of
feels
crazy
like
to make it.
a definite developer tool, it would seem like to me, you know, but that's awesome. You know, that's still a big market. Everyone who's working with, you know, OpenAI
It's
or
more.
like,
It looks more like concept art. It's like more like making an
yeah, totally.
artistic statement about AI. It's not really expecting people to use it. I don't know.
All right, and then I'm so like behind the times on this, but there's another tool that OpenAI is talking about. This tease this device. Let's see if we can find it. They haven't talked about it. Okay, I don't know if it's actually got a I don't know if it's actually got a like a sort of, you know, thing on there yet, or any sort of like visual, but effectively what it is a different way of interacting with AI. So that was like, we just talked about this keyboard that you can customize, a joystick for something, and then a knob for a thinking level, which I just think is hilarious. You could be chatting, you'd be like, oh, I need it to be dumb. Oh, I need it to be smart. The joystick, who knows what it does? You can customize it all. So I think probably it's gonna be more for developers. It's gonna be like a cool little thing you have your side of your keyboard. Because like right now, I don't know how you're interacting, but I literally am typing less than I ever have in my life. I have a button on my, I was using
I still
Whisperflow.
type. I don't know. I feel like it gets it wrong so much unless
Yeah.
I'm giving like this long speech about those just brain dumping. Like, I just feel like I have to be very precise, and I don't want to get confused by a typo, right? Like, often just
Yeah,
typos
you're
for
right. I
me.
mean, like there's Whisperflow, which felt like it was more accurate, but as I trained it, it felt like it got less accurate. So now I'm back to a free tool called,
Really?
yeah, I don't know if that was what was happening, or if I was like so impressed with it at the beginning. I'm like, this is worth $15. And
That's
then so
funny.
I signed up for it, and then I went back to this tool called, no, not that. This tool, which was called Get On It AI, and they're giving for the first 5,000 people, I guess it's free or something like that.
That's
The
funny.
offline alternative to Whisperflow. And so I use this because I am not a touch typer also. I never really learned. So for me,
Mm. Oh
talking
yeah.
through and be like, hey, I wanted to do this and that. And then I learned to trust it more. I know some words it's going to mess up. I usually scan it real quick just to make sure. But like you say, great for long prompts. All
Yeah,
that to
I
say,
think once I have to scan it and I got it wrong, I have to go click in, and it's hard to click
you
in. I
might
have
as
to
well just have
type in
typed it.
again, and then it's like ends up being the same amount of time. But I
Yeah,
had to like yell to other people. I just don't.
you
I don't
might be
build a
right.
habit. Yeah, I don't build a habit enough.
You might be right.
It's there's a certain number of words maybe it's worth it if I'm just brain dumping something like a new
Right.
concept. But usually
Well,
what
I
I
think,
do is I'm doing an agent thing. So what I do is I just get really good at picking just three words. So like the agent's doing something and I'm like, no, done.
oh, that's interesting.
GLM. Like, I try to think like I don't have to write 5.2. I can just write GLM. It knows. And it
Well,
does. It
I
always
know that's
knows.
funny.
It
Like
knows what
that's
I mean.
you're always next level. So the way I work is like I'm generally pretty concise. Sometimes it'll be a quick type thing, but generally I like to express myself verbally and I'll put it in there. But I've noticed also as I get later in the day, especially if I'm like working late, my fiance's not around. Usually that's the reason I'm cut off from work is like it's evening time with the family.
Yeah, she's
But
like, you can't do this anymore.
no, you're a
Kids
family
kids are
man
here.
too. You
Yeah.
know, point being that when she's away, which sometimes she has to work her own work trip or whatnot, I'll work late and I notice my prompts get super sloppy. And so what I'll actually do is I'll I'll take it into Claude first and be like, hey, please clean this up for my developer. And then I'll bring that cleaned up prompt back into where I'm actually doing the work.
Oh,
Um, which is really funny, especially when it's longer. It helps me figure out, and then I'll actually sometimes notice that it got something wrong, which means my original prompt was bad. And so that's how I work. But long tangent to say that the next product that OpenAI is coming out with, apparently, and working with Johnny Ive on, and by the way, OpenAI just got sued by Apple. Johnny Ive was not mentioned, but apparently the OpenAI has been getting lots of developers and technology folks from Apple and not being, in fact, straight up encouraging them to bring prototypes and IP over. Like, it's so blatant. It's like it wasn't even hidden, but it's been quite a deal. But Johnny Ive was not mentioned in that accusation. Apple is obviously pulling at coattail, struggling, because that is a desperate move, which is pretty pathetic on Apple's part. I might have to sell some of my Apple stock, but which I've had for 20 years. But point being that, like, their next product, OpenAI with Johnny Ive, is meant to be a little device that you wear, follows you around. It's got a camera, it's got a microphone, it's got a speaker. Like the little joystick, they're starting to think about different ways of interacting with our agents. What do you think about that? I mean, you just mentioned you don't trust a lot of like your voice to text anyway, so that's definitely banking on a lot of voice to text accuracy, because you're not even seeing a graphical output of what you've said. So, but say, given that's solved, what are your thoughts on a device that literally has no screen?
Yeah, I would love that. Yeah, I would love to not stare at a screen all the time.
Yeah.
That'd be great. I
Me too.
love to do voice calls over Zoom. I mean, this is perfect for clips and video, but generally with people I know, I try not to do video calls.
Yeah. I mean, I know that, like, I honestly, I should have put I've got one of these great $150 from Amazon. Go into standing mode right now. Sometimes I'll do this in the middle of the meeting, like we are right now. People are like, "What's happening to you?" And I'm like, "I'm going to standing mode right now." And then I get up in the middle, and then I have like a nice little soft foot pad.
Oh, okay. I raise the desk. Is it
And now I'm
moving
in
desk?
standing mode. Here we go. Why do I show you my elaborate setup? Is because I'm here from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m., quick lunch break. I am working on all this awesome stuff. I love it. I love my job. I love what I'm doing more than ever. Like, I am so, fascinated by all this stuff. Wouldn't want to change it. But I would want to change the way I'm working, because I think my body is atrophying. My fiance will come and be like, "Wow," she's like, "I gotta give you a massage," because I'm like in this position, looking at this monitor or this one. And so sometimes I'll try to stretch in the middle of my day. But effectively, whether I'm standing here or whether I'm sitting, I'm still at this computer. I'm still in front of these screens. Probably not great for my eyes anyway. The dream of actually being like, I'm going to go for a walk in the middle of the day for an hour, but I'm going to still be productive. I'm almost there a little bit with my OpenClaw. I can do some really cool stuff on the fly, but I'm still looking at this screen and hopefully not getting run over when I cross a crosswalk. Luckily, I live in a quiet neighborhood. But point being that this is opening up, this voice product is potentially opening up a really interesting way of interacting with AI. And you can imagine a voice product. I don't know, and especially like with the glasses overlay, now you're starting to talk about some pretty cool things. Like, I'm out and about. It opens up some other problems, but I'm out and about as I'm walking through space, interacting and doing cool stuff. I guess my point would be like, why does this need to be a new product? Like, why? Maybe because it has a always on camera on it or something. Like, why can't this just be an earbud or like,
Does it? Wait, their speaker thing has a camera?
I think it's like, from what I understand, it's like a necklace with a camera and speaker that's always on. Or maybe it's like a clip-on.
Oh, okay. You're talking about OpenAI's one.
Yeah, OpenAI's product with Johnny Ive. There's two products that you have. They have that.
Oh, I'm confused. Okay.
Yeah, there's the two products, both new ways of interacting with AI and agents.
I only heard about the speaker that's movable. That's
Well, one's the keypad I just showed you.
No, but they have. I saw a thing that was like a big pizza. It's not wearable. Do you have a link? Can you project this? No, am I imagining this? Was this like a tweet that was a joke?
See if you can find that. I mean, I found the keyboard that I pulled up, and I know that that's a real product that you can buy. Yeah. The other one's not out yet, and that's the collaboration with Johnny Ive. That's what the second one that I know about.
Oh, I assume the first one was Johnny Ive as well. But sorry, you don't have a link to your idea about the thing?
I couldn't find it. I mean, I just searched it real quick.
Okay.
Let me see if I can find it.
OpenAI. No, I think I'm correct about it then.
It's a pizza thing. See, I see OpenAI's first device will be a movable screenless speaker
Yeah.
built as an AI companion. But did you see
Yeah.
a rendering or
That's
anything
not
for it?
it's not wearable.
Movable.
Movable doesn't mean
Oh,
wearable. It's like this. Looks like this.
so it follows. It's like it follows you around, like around your house.
But you move it because it's a speaker. It's like a wireless speaker, I guess. I
Thanks,
don't know.
love. My wonderful fiance just told me lunch is ready, so I'm gonna go in 10 minutes.
It's like
Um,
this. I guess they didn't really have a vision of it. There's some tweet that,
so
but
this is
it's not
it's like
wearable.
a
It's
fancy
not.
Alexa,
Yeah. Yeah.
maybe on wheels.
It's Alexa on wheels.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
like
this is
this
a
one.
better because Alexa was complete. Oh, but that's what I saw. Go scroll up.
You saw this, which is
I saw
clearly
that.
not real, which is clearly not real, and this is
Well, yeah,
nonsense.
I don't know if
This
any of
is the
these things.
ugliest thing I've ever seen. It's an
I don't know
iPad.
if any. By the way, I've seen products like that. Like actually, a guy in San Francisco sold me one in the back of a. Here it is. Oh no, I put it away. A guy in the back of a Uber in San Francisco sold me a $60 device called a. What was it called? Like a little gem thing that's like an always-on transcriber. Super cool guy. I bought it because on a whim I had $60. He's like, I'll sell you my prototype. It was a 3D printed prototype for $60. I bought it. Had a little
Oh,
Discord.
cool.
Yeah,
You
it's
love
cool.
buying prototypes. That's awesome.
I do love buying prototypes. I'm a prototyper, so I like also playing with them.
Nice.
So wait, but check it out. The idea
What do you
of
think of the build quality of the thing I made?
dude, this is the
Like,
sweet feather
right?
that
And it
just
fits, and it's like it has
yeah,
all these like fan vents. I was
yeah.
really
Maybe
lucky to
I'll
have.
put one or two more things. I think you got a little too simple with like you're like the MacBook when all they did
No,
was
yeah, I
they
gotta go full
and I
Apple, like
and I
one
get a
hole.
freaking USB plug back. So we'll talk about that another time. Okay, so for example,
Well, the other one has more holes. Since you want more, the other one has like too many holes.
the other one, where did I put the other one? Where is it? Oh, the other one has more plugs in it, but I bought two of Joseph's prototypes, or he gave me two at least. But anyways, the point being, whether this is an Alexa type speaker, whether this is a wearable thing, which I think is interesting, but probably at that point it might as well just be some glasses, but it could be like a necklace. I think all of this stuff, well, the keyboard not so much. These other things though are trying to get you to interact with AI and agents in a new way, and hopefully that way will be largely without as many screens, so we can be out,
Yes.
out around our
Yeah,
house, walking
the
around.
days of this are numbered.
Number,
It's the days of this are how many
yeah.
years?
It's interesting. Like I talk about this because I just built Team Central and my team really enjoys it. But they're like, do I have to use Team Central? And certain people are, one of my AI groups was like, hey, nice, you spent the last 2 weeks building that. It's like, are you sure that everything's not just going to be voice? And I was like, can you just give me some props? This thing's really cool. But actually what was interesting about that was like, I was like, you know what? I'm going to build an MCP for it, but now you can just talk to it in Claude. So you can now
Yep,
talk to Team Central.
that's right.
And now you can be out and about talking with it with ChatGPT or Claude, and you can be booking meetings. You could be finding out about your last transcripts. You could be creating documents all via voice. So Team Central still has a UI that you connect your things and maybe you can go back to see stuff visually. But because of the way I've now connected it to Claude and OpenAI, you can chat. So I guess what we're talking about here is like multiple ways of interacting. And that's the thing, like you interact with your agents in a different way than I do. Other people might interact through, Terminal. You might interact through Claude Code or the app. I might work in an IDE like Anti-Gravity or my OpenClaw with Discord. They're all accessing agents and AIs in just different UIs. And now we're having like the speaker, another way of accessing it. So all these experiments of how, and maybe there's not just one way. Some people will like more graphical. Some people will like more audio. Maybe their work will be more well suited for audio, while others really need an AI-enabled multi-workspace, and their UIs aren't going anywhere. So it's an interesting kind of wild west of like how we interact with these things, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Mhm.
I hmm. I think voice is gonna be cool. I think Okay, my friend has a company and he made an MMORPG in the company, and you have the little character and you walk around and the users just play the game and they're like, oh, this how are you? Can we trade this diamonds for this? and they're like, oh, I wish there was like a hill there or something. And what the AI does is it just watches what you're doing and what you're saying, and it will figure out, oh, maybe we should put a hill there based on what he said, or like it took him too long to do this. Let me do add this feature. So
Wow.
every night, every 2 hours, the AI reaps all the information and then changes automatically, and is
Hmm.
just continuously in a loop.
Hmm.
So maybe there won't even be any interface. Maybe the AI will just watch us and then like increase the humidity based on our like eye movements and things. So we don't even have to prompt it. It just takes care of us. And we don't
Yeah.
even have to interface. Like, what's the point of interface? Like, why? Why don't I just hang out with people and then everything kind of slowly works out for you in your favor?
I love that for our last 5 minutes. Let's go really far in the future. And Joseph's quote is like, why need interfaces when everything can just like work out? I like that. I mean, ultimately, what are we here for as humans, right? Um, and this is sort of goes to sort of talk about what's happening also with AI and
How
prompt,
far a future is that? Like 4 years?
right? And what's funny is because as humans, we're like, as we're talking about agents and these agentic workflows and solving problems, we're often being like, hey, here's how I solved my problem. Can you replicate it? And they're showing that that's not actually the right way of getting things done with AI. The better way is actually starting with your outcome. It's a lot of what I've started to work on when working with the products and prototypes, is like, rather than tell it what exactly I want it to do and how I want it to build the thing, I actually trust that it's going to come up with a great plan that might even be better than me. I'm going to start with the dream outcome. In fact, I'm going to start with the dream outcome that I even want it to help me flesh out and fully ideate. And then I can be like, cool, now you come up with
That's
that plan,
right.
right? And
That's
so it's
right.
outcome-based prompting or
Interesting.
outcome engineering.
I like that.
Prompt
That's
engineering,
exactly
yeah.
it. Yeah, yeah. And then you
Yeah,
work
and so
backwards.
right, and
Yeah.
then you trust because often it increasingly has a better way of building it or developing or delivering it than you would have even told it to do. And so similarly, with all that we're doing, is like that's going to become increasingly possible to get what it is that we want done. And so then what are we going to be left doing? What are we going to left needing screens for? And like we're going to be out and about. Our agents are going to be talking to each other, facilitating things, making deals, creating stuff. I mean, are we gonna then just have more time to learn the ukulele and, you know, learn a language,
Ukulele.
learn a language just because it's charming? We don't need to, but it's like because it's good for our brain health, like
We're all gonna speak Italian.
right. Yeah, so I don't know like what that level of the future looks like. I mean, I know in the meantime it's really fun to just play in this space. Even tools like we talked about, you really inspire me to like rather than pay for a crazy subscription, actually look at this tool and be like, hey, I want to rebuild this but slightly differently for my own company. And I just did that. I used Fable to like scan this tool, then create a feature list and a plan to build it with my own customizations. And after 2 days of giving that to Opus 4.8, it built me something that is even more customized than the multi-thousand-dollar tool per month that I would have had to sell my company on, who wouldn't have gone for it, my client. Instead, I was able to build them something. And so that's a really interesting future when basically anything we want, we're able to conjure. Um, and then it's like, how creative can we be? Like what exactly do we want to build when we can build anything we want, knowing that also it might not be like it could be easily copied by anyone else. So I don't know what that future looks like, and I don't know how long that is away. Realistically, we're at the forefront of a lot of this. So I think that people listening to this or people playing with these ideas, it's going to be, I think, some years until agentic use properly catches up and is fully
Yeah.
trusted across industry and people are using things at that level. There's going to be a ways away where people are talking to their AI in effective ways and knowing how to prompt, even outcome engineering or whatever type of engineering you want to talk about. So I do think we got a little bit of a ways off, but I don't know what that future looks like. But it's good. I'm there for it.
Totally.
Yeah.
All right, it's time to log off. Been really
Cool. Any
good to
final,
talk to you
final
about
word?
it. I love the envisioning of the futures of interfaces. It's cool.
Yeah, I think we should always keep the last like 5 or 10 minutes of this to I like the format today. Some like what we've been working on, some things that we think are cool, then some news, and then a future vision to hand off with. So this has been awesome as usual. See everybody back same time, same place next week.
All right. Well, not next week. No, the following week, I think.
Next week. Yeah, next week
Great.
actually on vacation.